The Sopwith Pup was a British single-seater biplane fighter aircraft built by the Sopwith Aviation Company. It entered service with the Royal Flying Corps and the Royal Naval Air Service in the autumn of 1916. With pleasant flying characteristics and good manoeuvrability, the aircraft proved very successful. The Pup was eventually outclassed by newer German fighters, but it was not completely replaced on the Western Front until the end of 1917. Remaining Pups were relegated to home defense and training units. The Pup's docile flying characteristics also made it ideal for use in aircraft carrier deck landing and takeoff experiments. Design and development. In 1915, Sopwith produced a personal aircraft for the company's test pilot Harry Hawker, a single-seat, tractor biplane powered by a 50-horsepower Gnome rotary engine. This became known as Hawker's Runabout. Another 4 similar aircraft have been tentatively identified as Sopwith Sparrows. Sopwith next developed a larger fighter that was heavily influenced by this design, though more powerful and controlled laterally with ailerons rather than by wing warping. The resulting aircraft was a single-bay, single-seat biplane with a fabric-covered, wooden framework and staggered, equal-span wings. The cross-axle type main landing gear was supported by V-struts attached to the lower fuselage longerons. The prototype and most production Pups were powered by the 80-horsepower Lorraine 9C rotary engine. Armament was a single 0.303-inch Vickers machine gun synchronized with the Sopwith Corpus synchronizer. A prototype was completed in February 1916 and sent to Uphaven for testing in late March. The Royal Naval Air Service quickly ordered 2 more prototypes, then placed a production order. Sopwith was heavily engaged in production of the 1 1/2 Strata, and produced only a small number of Pups for the RNAS. Deliveries commenced in August 1916. The Royal Flying Corps also placed large orders for Pups. The RFC orders were undertaken by subcontractors Standard Motor Company and Whitehead Aircraft. Deliveries did not commence until the beginning of 1917. A total of 1,770 Pups were built by Sopwith, Standard Motor Company, Whitehead Aircraft, and William Beardmore and Company. Operational history. In May 1916, the RNAS received its first Pups for operational trials with a naval squadron. The first Pups reached the Western Front in October 1916 with No. 8 Squadron RNAS, and proved successful, with the squadron's Pups claiming 20 enemy machines destroyed in operations over the Somme battlefield by the end of the year. The first RFC squadron to re-equip with a Pup was No. 54 Squadron, which arrived in France in December. The Pup quickly proved its superiority over the early Fokker, Halberstadt and Albatros biplanes. After encountering the Pup in combat, Manfred von Richthofen said, "We saw at once that the enemy aeroplane was superior to ours. The Pup's lightweight and generous wing area gave it a good rate of climb. Agility was enhanced by installing ailerons on both wings. The Pup had half the horsepower and armament of the German Albatros DE, but was much more maneuverable, especially over 15,000 feet due to its low wing loading." Ace James McCudden stated that, when it came to maneuvering, the Sopwith Pup would turn twice to an Albatros once. It was a remarkably fine machine for general all-round flying. It was so extremely light and well surfaced that after a little practice one could almost land it on a tennis court. However, the Pup was also longitudinally unstable. At the peak of its operational deployment, the Pup equipped only 4 RNAS squadrons, and 3 RFC squadrons. By the spring of 1917, the Pup had been outclassed by the newest German fighters. The RNAS replaced their Pups, first with Sopwith triplanes, and then with Sopwith Camels. The RFC soldiered on with Pups, in spite of increasing casualties, until it was possible to replace them with Camels in December 1917. Home defense duties equals. The raids on London by Gotha bombers in mid-1917 caused far more damage and casualties than the earlier airship raids. The ineffective response by British interceptor units had serious political repercussions. In response, No. 66 Squadron was withdrawn to Calais for a short period, and No. 46 was transferred for several weeks to Sutton's Farm Airfield near London. 2 new Pup squadrons were formed specifically for home defence duties, No. 112 in July, and No. 61 in August. The first Pups delivered to home defence units utilised the 80-horsepower Lorraine, but subsequent home defence Pups standardised on the more powerful 100-horsepower No. Sopwith, which provided improved rate of climb. These aircraft were distinguishable by the addition of vents in the cowling face. Shipboard use equals. Sopwith Pups were also used in many pioneering carrier experiments. On August 2, 1917, a Pup flown by SQNCDer Edwin Dunning became the first aircraft to land aboard a moving ship, HMS Furious. Dunning was killed on his third landing when the Pup fell over the side of the ship. The Pup began operations on the carriers in early 1917. The first aircraft were fitted with skid undercarriages in place of the standard landing gear. Landings utilized a system of deck wires to trap the aircraft. Later versions reverted to the normal undercarriage. Pups were used as ship-based fighters on 3 carriers, HMS Campania, Furious and Manxman. A number of other Pups were deployed to cruisers and battleships where they were launched from platforms attached to gun turrets. A Pup flown from a platform on the cruiser HMS Yarmouth shot down the German Zeppelin L-23 off the Danish coast on August 21, 1917. The U.S. Navy also employed the Sopwith Pup with famed Australian-British test pilot Edgar Percival testing the use of carrier-borne fighters. In 1926, Percival was catapulted in a Pup off the battleship USS Idaho at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Training duties the Pup saw extensive use as a trainer. Student pilots completing basic flight training in the Avro 504K often graduated to the Pup as an intermediate trainer. The Pup was also used in fighting school units for instruction in combat techniques. Many training Pups were in fact reserved by senior officers and instructors as their personal runabouts, while a few survived in France as personal or squadron hacks after the type was withdrawn from combat. Nomenclature: the Pup was officially named the Sopwith Scout. The Pup nickname arose because pilots considered it to be the Pup of the larger 2-seat Sopwith 1½ strutter. The name never had official status as it was felt to be undignified, but a precedent was set, and all later Sopwith types apart from the triplane acquired animal names, which ended up with the Sopwith firm being said to have created a flying zoo during the First World War. Variants: Sopwith Admiralty Type 9901, Admiralty designation. Sopwith Pup, single-seat scout biplane. 1770 built. Sopwith Dove, 2-seat civilian biplane. 10 built. Alcock Scout, aircraft built partially from the remains of a crashed Pup and other aircraft. 1 built. Beardmore WBE, shipboard variant designed to fold into smallest possible volume. 100 built. Operators: Australia, Australian Flying Corps, No. 5 Squadron AFC in the United Kingdom. No. 6 Squadron AFC in the United Kingdom. No. 8 Squadron AFC in the United Kingdom. Central Flying School AFC at Point Cook, Victoria. Royal Australian Air Force, No. 1 Flying Training School RAAF at Point Cook, Victoria. Belgium, Belgium Air Force, 5 Escadrille de Chasse. Greece, Hellenic Navy, Japan, Imperial Japanese Army, Imperial Japanese Navy, Netherlands, Romania, Russian Empire, Imperial Russian Air Force, Soviet Union, Soviet Air Force, taken over from the Imperial Russian Air Force. United Kingdom, Royal Naval Air Service, United States Navy. Survivors: Sopwith Pup N5182, built by Sopwith Aviation Company at Kingston-upon-Thames in 1916. N5182 was operated by several RNAS squadrons in Belgium and northern France. It was flown by the noted aces Edward Grange and Robert A. Little, both of whom scored victories with the aircraft. A private collector acquired N5182 from the French Air Force in 1959 and restored it to airworthy condition. N5182 was acquired by the Royal Air Force Museum in 1982 and is currently on display at the Royal Air Force Museum Cosford. Sopwith Pup N5195, served in the Royal Naval Air Service in France. Currently on display at the Museum of Army Flying. Sopwith Pup B1807, built by Standard Motors in 1917 and delivered to a home defense squadron. This aircraft was originally fitted with a 100-horsepower no-manoeuvrability engine, along with the distinctive three-quarter vented cowling. It was refitted by the 80-horsepower relegated engine sometime in 1918. B1807 was sold at Croydon in 1920 and entered the Civil Register as GEAVX. It appeared on July 16 at the 1921 aerial derby at Hendon, where it was ground-locked by its pilot. The wings were removed and the fuselage disappeared until 1973, when the current owner discovered the remains of the aircraft in a barn in Dorset. GEAVX is currently being restored to airworthy condition at RNAS Yeovilton. Sopwith Dove GEBKY, one Dove was converted to Pup configuration in the 1930s and flies with the Sopwith collection. Specifications. Data from British naval aircraft since 1912, general characteristics. Crew, 1, length, 19 feet 3¾ in, wingspan, 26 feet 6 in, height, 9 feet 5 in, wing area, 254 FTA squared, empty weight, 787 pounds, loaded weight, 1,225 pounds, power plant, 1 air-cooled rotary engine, 80 horsepower, performance, maximum speed, 97 knots at sea level, service ceiling, 17,500 feet, endurance, 3 hours, climb to 10,000 feet, 14 minutes, climb to 16,100 feet, 35 minutes, armament, guns, 1 .303 in Vickers machine gun fired forward through the propeller by means of a gun synchronizer. See also, related development, Sopwith Camel, aircraft of comparable role, configuration and era, Bristol Scout, Fokker Dr. I. Related lists, list of aircraft of the Royal Air Force, list of aircraft of the Royal Flying Corps, list of aircraft of the Royal Naval Air Service, list of fighter aircraft. References. Notes Bibliography External links, Sopwith Pup, the Owl's Head Museum's airworthy Sopwith Pup reproduction page.